Hello and welcome back to Seconds Out. My name is Eamon Khan. It's a pleasure to be joined by, once again, top trainer to get his thoughts on the boxing scene and his fighters too, Don Charles. Don, sir, how you doing?
I'm doing good. How are you?
Yeah, all the better for speaking to you, and let's get into yourself first. First of all, last time we spoke, we were over in Poland. Obviously, good to see you safe travels back and well rested and ready to go again. What's the latest status with Daniel Dubois? Is he in training? What's the status with him?
Yeah, we're always in training. Obviously, after the successful but disappointing result from Poland, we regrouped, gave him 10 days off, and he came back after that into the gym. And he's a young man, fit young man. And yeah, we're back in the gym and trying to perfect what we do.
Is there a target date in mind for his return to the ring?
No, we're aiming for early next year.
Mm-hmm. And any sort of opponents on the list just yet, or are you still kind of looking to create that?
No, basically, I've got to speak to the manager, Martin Bowes. He keeps me posted on any developments regarding opponents. But presently, my duty as a trainer, we're in the gym trying to perfect what we do. As you know, Daniel and myself and the team, it's a new team. So we're still getting to know each other better. And we were together for 16 weeks prior to taking on the number 2 heavyweight in the world. And I'm very, very proud of what we did collectively. Him as a fighter, I'm very proud for him to have put on such a performance with such a short period with his new team.
What did you make of the WBA not kind of taking heed of the appeal?
Well, basically, it's one of those appeals where I wasn't holding my breath, in the sense that you kind of know the outcome before. I knew it would fall on deaf ears. Yeah, in fact, they took forever they didn't actually give us a result, did they? All they did was basically announce to you Tyson Fury fight that it's been signed. So that's basically our answer there publicly. Then they came back shortly after that saying there was insufficient evidence for them to make a decision whether it's a low blow or legal blow. I mean, insufficient evidence. Who are they trying to kid? In the day we live today, in the modern technology, what more evidence do they need? There was presently in that stadium 40,000 people and millions watching around the world on television. So I don't know what more evidence, and it was an overwhelming majority, in the sense that if you put a voting out there, you're looking at 75%/80% called it illegal, perfectly legal shot. So I don't know what more evidence they needed. But nevertheless, we weren't holding our breath. It's just one of those things. It's not fair, it's not right, but that's the world we live in today. We just march on and keep perfecting what we do. And so next time, there will be anything we do in that ring will be conclusive. We'll take it out of their hands.
And the hard work doesn't stop there, Don. You've also brought in Tony Yoka into the team too. Can you talk to me about linking up with Tony Yoka? How did that come about?
Yeah, basically it's quite simple. I got a phone call that Tony Yoka was looking to, as you know, he was based in the States with Virgil Hunter. And he wanted to be closer to home because, as you know, he's French. He wanted to be closer to home. And he was looking for a trainer in the UK. My name was in the hat, apparently. And he came for a meeting. We had a trial. And after the trial, he said to me, look, I was going to see other coaches, but I'm happy with how the meeting went, and happy with the little trial we did, 2-day trial, boxing trial. And he opted to then just stay and not go anywhere else. And since then, we've been working hard. I've identified the areas that we need to improve, the areas that maybe we've fallen short, especially in his last 2 fights. So he's got a date on the 10th of December in France, and basically that's what we've been training for.
Target looking at the Takam rematch potentially?
Yeah, that's one of the plans. But first and foremost, to go and win his next fight against a very credible opponent and win that, then we have to then look at, speak with his manager and come up. I've got a list of opponents going forward, but we have to overcome his first fight with myself to build that confidence within myself as a new coach. I'm very confident, but the fighter has to believe in God than in the coach.
Mm-hmm. Indeed, waiting for Tony Yoka's return to the ring too. Now, Don, I want to speak to you on. We had you on the live stream, which was a great success. No small part to yourself as well too in contributing to that. I just wanted to get your thoughts on the aftermath now as the dust is settling on Fury versus Ngannou. Could you, for me, highlight the attributes of Ngannou's game that you'd feel that would make you feel confident? Of that he can have further success in the ring, in the boxing ring, if he does return to a boxing ring.
Well, he demonstrated that he belongs, he can compete, not just compete at a very high level within the boxing community or the boxing industry. He really surprised myself and everybody, if everybody's honest, including myself. I'm not a hypocrite. I totally wrote him off, because I didn't think it was possible for somebody from a different discipline to come into our world, the boxing world, and to compete at the very, very top level. It's almost like somebody who was playing, how can I put it, in the local league in football, suddenly says they want to play in the Premiership. You're going to laugh at them. And they turn up on the day and score a hat trick. Yeah, so if you can compare like that, the magnitude of the gulf, the gap that he bridged on that night successfully, his ring control, his ring generalship, and his way where he didn't fall for any of the feints of Tyson, feint. He didn't fall for it. He stood firm. He controlled centering. Like I said, his ring generalship impressed me a lot. His durability is unquestionable. And I was like I said, I'm not a hypocrite. I was one of the many people who wrote him off totally. Did I give him a chance? It's a cliche in boxing, say I gave him a puncher's chance. Yes, I did. Yeah. But what he demonstrated that day shows that he does belong at the top in boxing.
What of Tyson Fury? A lot of people are kind of maybe discrediting Tyson Fury discrediting Francis Ngannou in the sense that he didn't fight the best version of Tyson Fury, that Tyson Fury maybe didn't prepare well. Some people are saying that Tyson Fury has got old overnight, or maybe the fights with Wilder have taken things out of him. What do you think we saw from Fury in the ring?
Well, you know how fickle our industry is. I don't for one buy any of those. I think it's an accumulative of different factors. Yeah, you know, Tyson Fury is a global superstar. Yeah, so and he's a people's person. And what you find, like I said, is a collective of different factors. One of the main problems, I would say, if you're going to look for problems, it's easy to be a critic, isn't it? It's the easiest thing. I'm not criticizing him. I'm just, from an observation point of view, I would say one of the things I will notice is that the media is very demanding in the sense that, and he's a guy who obliges, yeah. He gives 101 interviews in one day, yeah. So he was, you know, very busy. If I was his trainer or in his team, I would say I would get him only to do a certain selected number of interviews, and that's it. Okay, and then he's coming off the back of his he had the Netflix program about his family. So he's like looking at it from an observation point of view. He's like, there's so much. He's been pulled left, right, and center. And he's a guy. He's an entertainer. Natural entertainer. He wants to please everybody in the sense to all his engagements. Maybe a lot of them can be avoided because it's very draining. After all, he's a human being. It's very draining. I think he's gone into that fight where, yes, Did he overlook? I think he took Ngannou serious, but it's all very well taking him serious. But your daily demands of the obligations, whether they're contractually or not, I think somebody needs to take charge to say to manage him where he doesn't engage in all these different gatherings and interviews. I think, like I said, he's a human being. At the end of the day, all the interviews and all the appearances, he's the one who has to go in the ring and fight. So I think it's easy to pull excuses and when things go wrong. Had he gone out there and blitzed Ngannou out in round 1 or 2, then we wouldn't be talking about all the engagements and interviews he's given. Like, it would be not relevant because of the performance, lack of performance. Then you can start looking at where you think he might have gone wrong. But that, I don't want to discredit Ngannou. You've seen Tyson Fury in the past. He'll come out, irrespective of all the interviews and engagements, he's still able to put up a really good performance. But unfortunately, Ngannou has something to do with that on that night.
Did what you saw in the ring on that night do anything to change your mind on how a Tyson Fury versus Alexander Usyk fight would go?
No, absolutely not. I'm not fickle like most human beings. You know, when a lot of human beings make judgments, they judge people because they got a hatred mind. Yeah, a hatred mind would impair your vision of how you view things or how you comment on things. You already have jealousy and hatred in your mind, so it's going to affect your decisions. And I don't suffer from that. So I think the Fury that will turn up to fight Usyk, my prediction doesn't change in the sense that he will ragdoll Usyk. Look, it's quite simple arithmetic, because Fury is a big man. Ngannou is a big man. Not just a big man, it's a big, solid, strong man from a fighting background where in his discipline, Ngannou's discipline, in the MMA, UFC, they looking at for knees, elbows, kicks, you name it. Whereas in boxing, he's just looking at for hands. So he wasn't phased at all. Yeah, he wasn't phased at all. And I've had experience of training people from that background in my gym. And I always find that because they've only got to watch out for punches, for hands, they're not bothered by it. They're not phased. Yeah, they generally make good boxers. And Francis Ngannou started off as a boxer. Okay, he was a boxer. And then they told him, with your physicality, you're probably better off going into the UFC, MMA route, which has served him well to date. So when people are saying he's a total novice, no, okay, he hasn't had documented or registered any professional or amateur fights. No, he did, but he trained as a boxer. So he's not somebody who has never boxed before. Yes, he has. And in most of his fights, he's a striker. In the UFC, he's knocked at people with his hands, uppercuts mainly. So this is just not a guy, an ordinary guy. He's an extraordinary guy. And then what part of, again, Tyson Fury's game that normally works for him, when he tried to put Ngannou in a hold to tie him up, Ngannou just shrugged him off because he's used to grappling. So Tyson's game plan is, he'll hit you, he'll smother you, hold you, tie you up, lean on you. Ngannou was not allowing him to do any of the things that normally works for him. I promise you he'll do that to Usyk, the same tactics, and it will work. Okay, Usyk is not a grappler, he's not a wrestler, so he won't have the ability to shrug Fury off the way, with ease. Ngannou did it with such ease. So that threw Fury off, obviously, because not the things that normally work for him, suddenly wasn't able to do it to this opponent.
Now, switching the focus back to Francis Ngannou, Francis, and no one would begrudge and are very happy to see Francis earning future paydays off of the back of his success in the ring, especially coming from the UFC background where fighters aren't paid as much as they deserve to be paid. So there are opportunities plenty for Francis, and it seems like the rumor mill is going wild with pitching fights for Francis Ngannou next. December 23rd season, another event happening in Saudi Arabia. potentially with a man you know extremely well, that being Dereck Chisora. Would you like to see the fight between those two? Can Dereck Chisora and settle the rhythm of Francis?
Most definitely, styles make fights, and I can actually see Dereck having a rumble with this guy, and yeah, Dereck I will back my guy all day long against someone like Francis Ngannou.
The other fighters that have been pitched against him are the likes of Anthony Joshua and Deontay Wilder. Look, a lot of people are elevating Francis Ngannou to a point where he can compete with those fighters. Do you feel that same way? Do you think he's now in that mix as well too?
Without a shadow of a doubt. Without whether he'll beat them is another question. Whether he'll be successful again. Like I said, Tyson Fury, the way he fights, the things that normally worked for Tyson didn't work for him against Ngannou. Whereas these other fighters we're mentioning, they don't have what Tyson has, but they've also got what they've got in the sense that, but can they compete? Can you put them in the same fight? Yes, you can. If what the question is, can Francis Ngannou operate within the top 20 of the elite boxers? Yes, he can. He belongs there.
Would you pick him to beat either Wilder or Joshua?
I wouldn't put it past him. How dare I doubt him after the performance he's done against the #1 heavyweight in the world? Well, I wouldn't put it past him. But I'll still back the out-and-out boxers to get the better of him over a period of, it has to be a championship, 12 rounds.
Don, as someone who's so entrenched in boxing as you are, someone who's seen fighters go and you've seen fights go as well too, you know, the boxing world has kind of reacted and don't really know how to digest what we saw. Was this an embarrassment? Was this, you know, not a great look for boxing, having a crossover fighter and an MMA fighter kind of have this level of success that we maybe weren't expecting?
No, I encourage it. I was very prior when the fight was first being mentioned. I was pro him to Fury doing such an exercise. It started off as something that was going to be an exhibition, then it turned real. Okay, and no, I'm very pro it. You know why? It brings a different demographics to boxing than otherwise. People who wouldn't normally have tuned in to watch boxing tuned in, because like I said, from a different demographic, so it's more eyeballs to boxing. So it's all good for the industry.
Don, bringing it back to you, but slightly shifting the focus a little bit. We saw Zhang versus Joyce 2, which saw Zhang defeat Joyce again. And I'm kind of thinking, like, off the back of that, Dubois gets a win, Joyce gets a win, and that rematch makes a lot more sense in the future.
Most definitely. That's one of the fights we definitely will entertain going forward. Most definitely. And yeah, like I said, I work in cahoots with the management and the promoter, who is Frank Warren, Martin Bowers being the manager. So we've had discussions, and yeah, that's the sort of fights that we'll be looking at.
Don, a real pleasure to pick your brain once again. A real pleasure to have another conversation with you. Thank you for speaking for Seconds Out, sir. Thank you for being on live stream as well too. Always good to have you on. We'll speak very soon.
Yeah, thank you again for having me.